to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Darian, aka LOL Not Darian, on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe, give me a thumbs up, comment down below who you think the killer is, because this is another episode of Only Murders in the Building. As you can see, I'm back at this man's house. I am back here. I've been having car troubles, and he's supposed to be fixing my car today, so I'm here against my own free will. Yes, he has kidnapped me and locked me in here. Let's get into it. As you guys know, last night, I'm filming this on a Tuesday, so last night, which is Monday night, season 4 episode 3 of Only Murders in the Building was premiered on Hulu. I watched it this morning. I let it marinate in my mind while I did some work, and now I'm here to discuss. Sorry if you can see me looking over there, it's because my cat is here. So the first scene, it is literally just the murder board, and you hear Zach Fragilistic. I don't know his name. You see him, or you hear him narrating. He's narrating this episode. So he's basically talking about how he had an acting teacher who said that finding your character or figuring out who your character is the same as a detective trying to find a killer. And you just keep asking those questions over and over again until you figure out who that one special person is. So he actually doesn't do a lot of narrating in this episode. It's kind of odd because a lot of times, like you guys know, in the other seasons, whenever they would have somebody narrating, it was like very nearly from their point of view. And I feel like he was kind of barely there. Not barely there, but he wasn't there any more than any other character in the episode. Whereas like in the other seasons, whenever they would have a narrator, it would highlight them more than the rest of the characters. And it was almost as though like the other characters were background characters, like Mabel, Oliver, Charles. They were all background characters to the narrator. But this time it just felt like it was still the spotlight on Charles, Mabel, and Oliver, and then Zach was there. You know what I'm saying? Well, Charles, Mabel, and Oliver are making the murder board and trying to figure out who possibly could have done it, figuring out their suspects, sorting their suspects, figuring out the talents of the killer, and then also figuring out the talents and the characteristics of their suspects. You also see clips of the FBI searching the apartment that's rented out to Dudenoff. They found a shell casing in the room, which was the shell casing for the single bullet that was shot into Charles' window to kill Saz. After they find the bullet, you see Detective Williams come in, and she starts talking to the crew or whatever and telling them what the FBI thinks. She said that the FBI took NYPD off the case and that the FBI is taking it over completely, and that she shouldn't even be there, but that she knows that they're going to do what they do anyway when it comes to the podcast. So she's just kind of given up on like telling them to not get involved, and she's basically just helping them at this point. So she starts telling the crew about the feds and their theory for what they think might have happened. And so basically Dudenoff, the person that rents that apartment, is a retired professor who is in Portugal. And I'm surprised they didn't mention it, because if y'all remember, if you think back to the last episode when they went and met the saucers, remember like the ham that was hanging on their shower rod? They said that was imported from Portugal. So I wonder, obviously that has something to do with it, but I love how they harped on it just a little bit, just enough to like make note of it, but didn't go any further into detail about it so that they could save it for later on down the line and the rest of the season. Dudenoff is a retired professor who went to visit Portugal for a little bit. The only one who caught wind of how suspicious it was Mabel. And she even said, like, that's suspicious, like, you know, the professor going to Portugal. I don't know if she made the connection that they got the ham from Portugal and the professor went to Portugal, or if she's saying it's suspicious because like they're all conveniently saying that like, oh, the professor is in Portugal. But when she said it, Detective Williams was like, right? Spain is right there. That is suspicious. Why would you not just want to go to Spain? Portugal of all places? But I love her. I love Divine. She is phenomenal. So then she also tells them before that they think, the feds think that Jan was involved in it, of course, because she's a serial killer, and that she fled to Florida because there's a lot of like orchestras. Because remember, she plays the bassoon. Because Jan plays the bassoon, and there's like a lot of orchestras there or whatever, and sex shops. Because, you know, she's always, that is a horn dog if I've ever seen one. She also says that nobody else heard the gunshot on their floor except Rudy. Yeah, except Rudy, which is the Christmas all the time guy. So then Charles tells Detective Williams that the feds have it all wrong. Jan had nothing to do with it. She was actually like worried about Saz. And Detective Williams is like, yeah, I know. Like, I believe you. You don't got to tell me twice. I know that they're not on the right track. And I also love how like they kind of broke the fourth wall a little bit, which yes and no, but like because it is a podcast, so there are seasons of the podcast, but like how Mabel was like, well, if this is the part where you tell us to not investigate, you're wasting your time. She was like, yeah, after 3 seasons. I kind of understand that now. Like, you don't have to tell me. After that, that is the part where all of their celebrity doubles come into the house. They just kind of barge into Charles's apartment. And they're like excited, except for Zach Fragilistic, because he doesn't really want to be there. He doesn't even really want to like play Oliver. He just, that wasn't the direction that he wanted his career to go, was to play like an old Broadway producer. I think like his agent, like, you know, signed him to a contract or something, so he's stuck. And then y'all remember earlier he like bargained with the producer of the movie for his own production in the company or whatever for a movie. So he's still there under the condition that he gets that movie, basically. So he's basically showing absolutely no interest, while Eugene Levy and Eva Longoria are basically really excited to go and solve a murder and help out the people that they're supposed to be shadowing. And then you see Detective Williams like basically fawning over Zach Fragilistic because she has like the biggest crush on him. We have a lot of hall passes in this season. Oliver starts working to try and convince Mabel and Charles that they should split up with their Hollywood pairs or whatever to go and investigate some parts of the murder. At first, Mabel and Charles are like kind of apprehensive because they just want to do it and get it done with. They don't want people that aren't qualified to get in the way. But then Eugene Levy kind of strokes Charles' ego, and Charles is like, okay, you know, we can hang out with them. So they split up or whatever. And the only reason Oliver is doing this is because he wants Zach to get to know him more and kind of like try a little bit harder to immerse himself in the role and immerse himself in Oliver's character, because he can tell that Zach is kind of just disconnected from the entire ordeal, the movie, the production, everything. Oh yeah, and then while they're like looking at the murder board trying to go over like their suspects and everything, you see Eva Longoria continuously being like, oh, I've heard enough, it's him. Nope, it's him. And you see Mabel, she's just like, stop touching the fucking board. Like, it's like a kid, like, I told you not to touch it. So basically after that, that's when they decide to go check on the people who they think are the suspects, and Oliver comes up with the idea that he and Zach are going to go listen in on the ham radio, aka just kind of like fuck around and kind of get Zach to be more interested in being Oliver in the movie. So while they're talking about like the murder board, Mabel brings up the tinsel that was found in the Dudenoff apartment, and she was like, you know, I want to go to his apartment to see if he has any tinsel in his apartment, because this might lead us to him. And they were also trying to figure out motive. So Eugene Levy had asked Charles, like, why would he want to kill you? And Charles basically said that he had like a whole commissioner thing or a petition for the building to get rid of real Christmas trees, because their fire hazards or whatever. And of course, a guy who is absolutely obsessed with Christmas would be upset at someone for wanting real Christmas trees banned from the complex. So after that, Charles says that he still suspects Vince. So when that all happens, they all like, you know, decide what they're going to look into, and they split up. Next scene, you see Eugene Levy and Charles basically sitting on Charles' couch, brainstorming, trying to figure out how they're going to get Vince Fish to take his eye patch off. Eugene Levy was saying, like, you can ask for a cup of water, I make a joke while you're drinking the water, and then you do a spit take and you spit the water in his face, and he'll have to take the eye patch off to clean. And Charles was like, that's so lowbrow. That is so lowbrow. We're not doing that. Are you crazy? So he says that he has came up with a plan. Eugene Levy also is like basically flattering Charles once again and giving him the inspiration he needs by basically saying, like, I always play really boring characters, but I play them because I think they're funny, but you're interesting because you're not funny. And so it's a challenge because he's probably like used to just always having to like step into his bag of like just being funny and like using comedic relief, you know. I'm not saying like this as like his character overall, but like, you know, in relation to how he's saying it here. He always makes the characters less boring by making them funny, but now he has to lean more into his seriousness as an actor to be able to pull off being Charles in a biopic. And so that's when Charles gets his bright idea. So the next scene, you see Eva Longoria pouring another glass of wine at 10 in the morning, and Eva Longoria is basically saying, like, how are we going to approach Rudy? Before Mabel could even say anything, Eva Longoria asks if she's attached to the name Mabel and like tries to make her name a little bit more fancy, and Mabel is like, no, that is my name. And Eva Longoria is basically like, it's giving old maiden.
The shoes that she gave me were not something that I would particularly buy for myself. They were old maiden type of shoes.
Yeah, so she's just like, I don't know, I think Mabel is a little bit better. And Mabel's like, no, absolutely, that's not my fucking name. That's not my name. I'm from, what'd she say? I'm from Long Island. Like, no. My name is fucking Mabel. And so whenever Eva was like saying like, okay, you know, we could go together to go talk to Rudy and Mabel straight up tells her like, I work alone. Please stay here. Cause she's basically just worried about Eva Longoria getting in the way of everything, because you can tell she's trying to like rush along the investigation. She keeps talking about how she's excited to find the murderer today. And it's like, you don't solve a murder in a day unless you catch them red fucking handed, you know? So Abel's just like, no, I got this one. Like, you just stay here, enjoy your glass of wine. Like, I'm good. I'm good, love, enjoy, you know? Oliver and Zach in Oliver's apartment, and Oliver is basically like trying to get Zach into character, get to know Oliver more and who he is as a person, who he is as a character. He's like showing Zach his wardrobe. He's telling him like, you know, we got to give you a little makeover. I don't know why, I guess like being a curly hair girl, it like kind of made me chuckle when he pulled out the Denman brush and started like brushing Zach's hair back. Oh, hold on, my man's back. Give me a sec. So while Oliver and Zach are talking about basically nothing, honestly, Howard ends up coming in and he sees Zach and he realizes that he and Zach are basically the same person. How if they wanted somebody to play Oliver who was the same description, typecast or whatever as Zach, they could have hired Howard, who is an actor who lives in the building, who knows Oliver like the back of his hand. And, you know, he's kind of jealous or whatever. Oliver basically designates Howard to listen in on the ham radio. And also Howard has the pig that had escaped from the apartment, from Dudenov's apartment in episode 2. The next scene, we see Mabel and she's walking through the west side of the Arconia and she's going to Rudy's apartment. She sees the Dudenov apartment blocked off by police tape as she's walking to Rudy's apartment. So she walks in there, and the very first person she sees is Eva Longoria. Because when Eva told Mabel that she was going to leave and that she doesn't stay anywhere, that she's not wanted, she ended up going to Rudy's apartment to get the jump on him. So Mabel's a little annoyed, obviously. She just deals with it because what else can she do? At the same time that Mabel and Eva are at Rudy's apartment, Eugene and Charles show up at Vince's apartment, both with eye patches on. And they're trying to basically sell him some like eye drops or whatever, some medicated eye drops that aren't FDA approved, and they found them in Paraguay because Charles' long lost family member was able to create, or not long lost family member, but like his uncle or something was able to create eye drops because he's an ophthalmologist, and he found some like groundbreaking medicine or whatever in Paraguay that he could use as eye drops, and the FDA just hasn't approved it yet, and blah 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 blah. And he was like, you know, basically his whole thing was that he could get Vince to lift up his eye patch if he like put the eye drops in. And I think it's so funny that neither one of them took their glasses off. Neither one of them took their glasses off to like do this, and they could have just put some contacts in, because I don't know, I feel like that's like, wouldn't you put the eye patch under the lens, you know what I mean? I don't know, or maybe that seems stupid because like, I don't know, but I thought that was funny that they still had their glasses on up under the eye patch. Obligatory cat cam. She does not like being here, you guys, because my man has a dog. She does not like the dog. She barely likes my man. It cuts back to the scene with Mabel and Eva Longoria in Rudy's apartment, Christmas all the time guy, and they're basically just trying to like, you know, talk to him, get to know him. But Mabel asks Eve, what have you told him? And Rudy basically answered and was like, oh, she told me that like you guys think I murdered Saz, and you're trying to like, you know, feel me out or whatever. And Mabel was like, right. So then they actually realize, they find out that Rudy has a ham radio in his apartment, and they find that out because the ham radio starts to play Stranger Times, or I think Perfect Strangers theme song. I guess Perfect Strangers is a show. I've never seen it. Maybe it's a mystery. Maybe I could watch it. But it starts playing the Perfect Strangers theme song, and that's when Mabel realizes that there's a ham radio in there. And Rudy like hurries up and like jumps up and grabs the ham radio, and he just like kind of explains it away and then goes into a different room. She also knows that there's a gun on the wall, and she's telling Eva like, you know, there's a gun on the wall, there's a ham radio, but I don't see any tinsel anywhere. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Sorry, I have cat hair on my chin. And Eva Longoria says that she would love to be able to go to her dinner at 7, I think. She has a dinner later on in the night, and she wants to tell everybody that she solved a murder that day, and it was going to be people like, I don't know the other two people's names, or I forgot them, but Michelle Obama's gonna be there, so. But, so fast forward, after that, you see Zach going through Oliver's photo album. So you see Oliver talking to Zach in his apartment, and he basically tells Zach that he has always wanted somebody to make a movie about him ever since he was a kid. And Zach knows, you know, like, I know that's really hard for you to admit because it's probably not for the reasons you think. And Zach realizes that he kind of overstepped, and so he starts being a little nicer to Oliver, and he lets Oliver help him get into the mind of who Oliver is as a person. So they have like basically a whole like, what is it called? Montage of them just like getting along finally. Then the next scene, Charles and Eugene Levy in Vince's apartment, and basically just like realizing, you know, their plan didn't work. Vince took the eye drops into a different room and like put them in his eye, and then came back and brought it. And so while he's still away in the other room, they're trying to brainstorm how they can like flip this and make it turn out in their favor. And they realize like, we have to do the spit take plan. So You know, Charles is like, well, I can't do it because if we suspect this guy of trying to murder me and then I go and spit in his fucking face, how do you think that's gonna go over? And so that part had me so fucking weak. Oh my god, hold on.
Oh, here's the water you wanted. Anyway, so these two snails are vacationing in Beverly Hills.
Here, try it. A priest and a duck.
No, that's not funny. You take it. You drink it. You drink it. Anyway, these two cannibals are sitting down to a nice...
But yeah, so that was that scene. Eugene Levy ends up getting punched in the face when he spits in Vince's face. He gets punched in the nose. I think his nose breaks. If it doesn't, then like it just starts bleeding from the shock. Vince goes to like, you know, wipe his face and he lifts up his eye patch finally, and that's when Charles realizes like, oh, it's actually a pink eye. Like, okay, all right, like, well, this was for nothing. Next scene, we see Mabel and Eva in Rudy's apartment, and Mabel gets caught looking through his drawers. She gets caught going through Rudy's drawers. Mabel gets caught going through Rudy's drawers, and while he's about to like, you know, start talking to her about playing with the Santa or whatever, Eva Longoria's like, okay, you know, let's just get this show on the fucking road because dinner just got moved up. And so she goes breaking all of Rudy's shit. Hold on. So she goes and she starts breaking all of Rudy's shit, basically trying to like get him to confess about what was going on, what he knows about everything, if he's the murderer, all of that, right? And so she gets the gun off the wall and points it at him, and she tells him, you know, we know you did it because you love Christmas and Charles got rid of real Christmas trees. And he's, you know, trying to explain himself, and she ends up shooting the Santa Claus, and thankfully it was not a real gun. So she shoots the Santa Claus, and that's when Rudy confesses that he actually hates Christmas. And the only reason he does what he does is because he did a Christmas workout video one time on Instagram and it went viral. And so now he is forever attached to Christmas in relation to working out and nutrition. He tells everybody, he tells them like, please don't tell anybody, you know, I don't want to be made out to be a fraud, but like that's what it is. I actually I hate Christmas, and I would have no reason to kill Charles just because he didn't want real Christmas trees here because, you know. So Mabel then asks him like, okay, well, can you at least tell us about this tinsel? And he grabs it and he gets a lighter and he lights it, and he tells her this isn't tinsel because if it was, it would have been on flames by now. That's when we are basically taken not all the way back to square one, because now we know that Rudy had nothing to do with it, almost, because what the fuck is it about that ham radio? Why does he have it, you know? But we're brought back to square one in relation to the tinsel, since we know that Rudy no longer has any affiliation to do with any of that. Mabel also thanks Eva and tells her like, you know, even though your ways were kind of crazy, you did kind of get us somewhere because we were able to get information out of Rudy off jump, and I didn't have to, it would have taken me weeks to get him knocked off my list as a suspect, because he obviously wouldn't have admitted to hating Christmas if she didn't do all of that, you know? So then the next scene is Oliver and Zach, and they walk in on Howard listening to the ham radio, and he says that he heard the Perfect Strangers theme song, but mostly just weather. He was like, you know, but mostly just weather reports, and you wasted my entire day. While he's saying that, Zach tells Oliver and Howard that he'll be right back. He has a phone call. He steps out. If you hear noises, it is heavy trash day. So he goes to another room to talk to his agent. Oliver ends up listening in on it, and it is Zach basically talking about Oliver and calling him a narcissist. That's when Howard steps in and basically starts going off on Zach, but really just calling Oliver's life a shit show, and, you know, just like portraying just how unput together he truly is, how he's broke, which we all knew, how his plays are mostly failures. We all knew. And then how his relationship with Loretta is on the rocks, but that he has like faith in him that they'll at least make it to 6 months before they break up, whereas everybody else gave them 3. That's when Zach finally realizes that Oliver is so much more than the one-dimensional character that he gave him credit for. And so he decides to actually start putting his all into this role. So next you see Charles and Eugene, and they're still in Vince's apartment, and Charles and Vince hash it out, and they basically both admit that they're just awkward, and that's why they always act the way they do whenever they see each other in the window. And Vince gives Charles a hug, and then afterwards he turns around and he gives Eugene a hug, and Eugene keeps Vince there, and he tells Charles to look at Vince's armoire in the entryway. So he looks at it, and it's a picture of all the neighbors. There was a picture of all the neighbors on the 14th floor, or like the ones that we know of, that look at Charles' apartment, and they see that one of the faces is scratched out. It looks like a woman to me. After that, we see Mabel and Eva leaving Rudy's apartment, and that's when Mabel tells her, you know, like I said earlier, thank you. Like it probably would have taken me weeks to scratch him off the list, so I appreciate that. And Eva calls Mabel bold, and Mabel decides that she's going to take a page out of Eva's playbook, and she quickly Googles squatter rights and realizes that all she has to do is just stay in Dudenoff's apartment for 30 days. And if Dudenoff isn't back in 30 days, then they have to come and basically physically remove her from the property. So she goes in there, she texts Charles and Oliver and says that she wants to have a housewarming party, and they come and meet her in the apartment. And she's also counting on, if Dudenoff does have to come and remove her from the apartment, she actually gets to see them face to face, and she can actually be there whenever they do get back home. After that, Mabel says that she had heard Perfect Strangers playing on the ham radio in Rudy's apartment, because she mentioned like Rudy was a dead end, but he did have a ham radio in the apartment, but it just played Perfect Strangers. And that's when Oliver remembered what Howard said, and he went back to Howard's notes and saw that after that it said meet me at 4:45. So they all get up, they go to the ham radio that is still in Dudenoff's abandoned apartment, or I guess now Mabel's apartment, and they turn into 4:45, and they're actually able to talk to somebody. And the voice, it sounded like somebody who was like Russian maybe, or like Eastern European, and they started asking the questions like, do you know who wanted to kill me? Do you know who Dudenoff is? And et cetera, et cetera. The person on the radio, the woman on the radio, said the last person who asked those questions got killed, aka Saz. Right before the episode clicked off, they heard the pig in the background, and the person on the radio called the pig by her name. And after that, the episode was over. First thought, I'm so happy that Mabel is finally taking charge of her own life and finding a new place for herself. She absolutely deserves it, and the fact that it'll still be in the Arconia, hopefully she can get the apartment, she can claim the apartment for herself. Next thought, I still don't know who it is. I'm still clueless. I will give myself until after episode 5. I have to make a prediction. I have to. So that's my rule for myself. I love Eugene and Charles' friendship. I know that they're like friends outside of the show because they've done multiple movies together in real life. So, and then I'm happy that Oliver is finally able to get Zach on board with playing as him in the movie. So those are my thoughts. I hope we get to see more of Rudy, because he's a funny character. I feel like he could be helpful in a friendly way. He's obviously hiding something, but I feel like he'll come around and finally open up to them and tell them what it is. I feel like Vince knows a lot more than he's letting on. I'm prepared to see the saucers in the next episode, because they didn't get any screen time this time. I think they'll be in the next episode, and I feel like Bev Mellon might come back in the next episode as well. So those are all my predictions. If it is one of the actors, I feel like it might be Zach or one of Zach's family members. But that's like super early predictions. Like I said, I give myself until episode 5 to finally come up with somebody, but I will let myself be able to change it until episode 8, because I think 9 and 10 is like when they really start to hone in on who it actually is. So by episode 8, I have to seal in my prediction. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe, give me a thumbs up, comment down below how you like this video. Let me know who you think the killer is, what your favorite parts of this episode are, and why you think they killed Charles. I still have no clue why they would want to kill Charles. I still have no clue. But anyway, I will see you guys in the next one.